In the dim, smoke-hazed glow of O'Malley's bar on the outskirts of a forgotten Midwestern town, where the jukebox wailed forgotten country tunes and the air reeked of stale beer and regret, a hulking biker named Jax gripped the collar of a simple woman's faded flannel shirt. Her name was Elena, a quiet soul with weary eyes that had seen too much of the world's cruelty, and in that frozen moment, as his calloused fingers tore the fabric with a savage rip that echoed like thunder through the crowded room, time itself seemed to halt. The shirt parted, revealing not the vulnerability he expected, but a bold Marine Corps tattoo etched across her shoulder blade. An eagle, globe, and anchor inked in faded black, scarred by time and battles unseen. The entire bar fell silent, glasses mid-clink, breaths held in collective shock, as Jax's sneer twisted into something unrecognizable, a mix of awe and shame that would unravel the night and perhaps the lives intertwined within it. If you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment sharing your own story of unexpected heroism. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that strength hides in the quietest places, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks for more tales that touch the soul and inspire the heart. Elena had never sought the spotlight, not in her youth when she enlisted in the Marines at 18. Driven by a fire to escape the suffocating grip of a broken home where her father's fists spoke louder than words, nor in the decades that followed, marked by the invisible wounds of war. Born in a dusty trailer park in rural Kansas, she grew up amidst the endless fields of wheat that whispered promises of freedom she could never quite grasp. Her mother, a frail woman worn down by life's relentless grind, had taught her to sew patches on worn clothes and find solace in small acts of resilience, but it was the recruitment poster in her high school hallway that ignited a spark, a chance to become something unbreakable. Boot camp forged her into steel, her slight frame hardening under drills that pushed her to the brink, where the sting of sweat and the roar of sergeants drowned out the echoes of her past. Deployed to Afghanistan in the early 2000s, Elena served as a combat medic, her hands steady amidst the chaos of IED blasts and the cries of the wounded, saving lives while fragments of shrapnel embedded themselves in her soul. She carried stretchers through dust storms, administered morphine under fire, and held the hands of dying comrades, whispering assurances that masked her own crumbling faith in humanity. But war doesn't end with a plane ticket home. It lingers like a shadow, twisting dreams into nightmares where the faces of the lost haunted her every sleep. Back in civilian life, Elena settled into anonymity, trading her uniform for a waitress apron at a roadside diner, where truckers tipped pulley and the coffee was always burnt. She rented a modest one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, its walls thin enough to hear the neighbors' arguments, a constant reminder of the fragility she fought to forget. Money was tight, her veterans' benefits barely covering the bills, and the PTSD crept in like fog. Sudden flashes of panic in crowded places, the jolt of a car backfiring sending her diving for cover behind a grocery aisle. Relationships frayed before they could form. Men saw her quiet demeanor as weakness, unaware of the storms raging beneath. Her only companion was a stray dog she named Scout, a mangy mutt with one ear chewed from fights, much like her own scarred spirit. Scout would curl at her feet during sleepless nights, his warm presence a silent anchor against the tides of isolation. Elena volunteered at the local VA center when she could, listening to other vets share their burdens, but she rarely spoke of her own, burying the pain deep where it festered, turning simple joys into distant memories. Laughter felt foreign, holidays passed in solitude, and the Marine tattoo on her shoulder, once a badge of pride, became a hidden relic she covered with long sleeves, ashamed of how the world had reduced her heroism to forgotten whispers. The challenges mounted like storm clouds on the horizon. Elena's mother passed away quietly in a nursing home, leaving behind a box of faded photos and unspoken regrets that Elena sifted through in tear-streaked silence, questioning if her absences during deployments had deepened the divide. Then came the layoff from the diner, the owner citing slow business but really unable to afford the rising costs, forcing Elena to scrape by on odd jobs, cleaning houses, walking dogs for neighbors too busy to care. Hunger became a familiar ache, not the gnawing starvation of the field but a quiet erosion of dignity. Choosing between rent and groceries, her pantry stocked with canned soup and day-old bread. Scout fell ill, a tumor swelling in his belly, and the vet bills loomed like an insurmountable wall, Elena skipping meals to save for his treatment, her love for the dog a fierce light in her darkening world. Friends were scarce, the few from her unit had scattered, some lost to suicide, others to addictions that mirrored her own battles with the bottle on bad nights. She attended therapy sessions sporadically, the counselor urging her to confront the trauma, but vulnerability felt like surrender, and Elena had been trained to fight, not yield. Isolation wrapped around her like a vice, the simple woman the town saw, unassuming, polite, always with a nod and a smile, hiding a warrior whose armor cracked a little more each day. Yet, in the midst of this quiet unraveling, seeds of change began to stir, subtle at first, like the first rain after a drought. It started with a chance encounter at the VA, where Elena met an older vet named Marcus, a grizzled Vietnam survivor with a prosthetic leg and a laugh that boomed despite his pains. He noticed her reticence during group sessions and pulled her aside one afternoon, sharing stories of his own descent into despair and the long climb back, emphasizing that strength wasn't in solitude but in shared burdens. Marcus invited her to a weekly veterans meetup at a nearby park, where barbecues and bonfires fostered camaraderie without the pressure of words. Reluctantly, Elena attended, her hands trembling as she gripped a plastic cup of soda, but the stories flowed like rivers, tales of survival, loss, and unexpected kindnesses that chipped away at her walls. Scout's surgery went better than expected, funded partly by a small fundraiser Marcus organized among the group, restoring not just the dog's health but Elena's flickering hope in humanity. She began journaling her experiences, the pen scratching paper in the quiet hours, unearthing memories she had long suppressed, turning pain into purpose. A part-time job at a hardware store followed, the owner a fellow Marine who recognized the tattoo peeking from her sleeve during the interview, offering her a position without the usual scrutiny. These small victories accumulated, building a fragile bridge over the chasm of her struggles, teaching her that healing wasn't a solitary march but a collective journey. As summer faded into autumn, the leaves turning fiery hues that mirrored Elena's rekindling spirit, fate steered her toward O'Malley's bar on that fateful evening. She had stopped in after a long shift, craving the anonymity of a quiet corner booth and a single beer to unwind, Scout waiting patiently in her beat-up truck outside. The bar was rowdier than usual, a gang of bikers dominating the pool tables with their leather vests and thunderous laughter, led by Jax, a man whose life had been a series of bad choices, abandoned by his family young, drifting through gangs and prisons, his aggression a shield against vulnerability. Jax spotted Elena immediately, her plain appearance and solitary demeanor marking her as an easy target for his misplaced rage, fueled by too many shots and a recent breakup that left him seething. He approached with predatory intent, slurring taunts that drew chuckles from his crew, his hand shooting out to grab her shirt as she tried to slip away, ripping it in a display of dominance meant to assert his broken power. The fabric gave way, exposing the Marine tattoo, and in that instant, the bar's cacophony dissolved into a profound hush. Jax's eyes widened, recognition dawning as he stared at the emblem he knew well. His own brother had served in the Corps, lost in Iraq, a hero Jax idolized but could never emulate. The ink on Elena's skin wasn't just a mark, it was a mirror to his regrets, freezing him in place as murmurs rippled through the patrons, some veterans themselves, others simply awed by the unexpected revelation. The moment stretched, electric with unspoken truths. As Elena stood tall despite the humiliation, her eyes locking onto Jax's with a quiet ferocity that spoke volumes of her endured trials. No words were needed, the tattoo narrated her story, a testament to battles fought in distant sands, lives saved amid gunfire, and the unyielding resilience that carried her through civilian tempests. Jax's hand dropped, his face paling as shame washed over him, the bar's collective gaze pressing like judgment. One by one, the bikers lowered their cues, a few nodding in respect, while regulars at the counter shared knowing glances, the air thick with a shifting energy. Elena didn't flee. Instead, she adjusted her torn shirt with deliberate calm, her posture unbroken, embodying the Marine ethos that had sustained her. Jax muttered something incoherent, stepping back as if scorched, his crew dispersing awkwardly, the night's revelry tempered by this unforeseen pivot. In the aftermath, as Elena gathered her things to leave, Marcus appeared, summoned by a text from a mutual friend in the bar, offering his jacket and a ride home, his presence a bridge between her past isolation and emerging connections. The incident rippled outward, whispers turning to stories shared in the town, Elena's quiet heroism no longer hidden, inspiring others to reach out, to see beyond surfaces. Weeks turned to months, and the bar incident became a turning point, not just for Elena but for Jax as well. Haunted by the encounter, he sought her out at the hardware store, his apology raw and unpolished, revealing his own fractured history and the brother whose memory the tattoo evoked. Elena listened, her empathy forged in the fires of war, extending a hand not in forgiveness alone but in shared understanding, suggesting he join the veterans group despite his lack of service. Jax attended hesitantly, his biker bravado peeling away to reveal a man yearning for redemption, finding solace in the stories that mirrored his pains. Elena's life blossomed subtly, promoted at work, her journaling evolving into a blog that connected with other vets online, Scout thriving by her side. The challenges didn't vanish, nightmares still visited, finances teetered, but the support network she cultivated acted as a buffer, turning solitary struggles into communal triumphs. She visited her mother's grave more often, laying flowers and whispering updates, feeling the weight of regrets lift with each visit. The marine tattoo, once concealed, became a symbol she wore proudly, a reminder that vulnerability and strength coexisted, inspiring those around her to embrace their own hidden scars. In the quiet evenings, as Elena sat on her porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, a profound sense of peace settled over her, the kind earned through fire and forged in kindness. The world, once a battlefield of isolation, now held pockets of warmth, friends who checked in, a community that saw her fully, and the knowledge that even in moments of violation, like that night in the bar, dignity could prevail. Jax transformed too, trading his aimless rides for volunteer work at the VA, his redemption a ripple from Elena's unyielding spirit. Life's tapestry, woven with threads of pain and grace, revealed its beauty in these connections, proving that second chances bloomed not from perfection but from the courage to confront the broken pieces. If this story has touched your heart, stirred emotions you didn't expect, or reminded you of the hidden heroes in our midst, please like, comment below with your thoughts, share it far and wide, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. We need more stories like this to keep the light of compassion alive. And before we end, a special request, comment the line, "Kindness always wins," below if Elena's journey moved you. Let's flood the comments with hope.